Disease. We have diseases now that we didn't have 100 years ago. We have eye diseases that didn't exist 100 years ago. We have cancers that are out of control that were not around 100 years ago. We have obesity. I live in the South now. My jaw drops sometimes. And I go to a Walmart and they go wash for falling prices. And I look at the people and I'm like, oh my God. It's like in the falling prices and the food they're grabbing and the weight that they're carrying. And my heart just goes out to them, and I see these children now. I see 7-year-old kids now. It took me, God, I'm a skinny beanpole, and I'm like 6'2.5", 162 pounds. It's like, muscle and bones. That's all I've ever been. And I look at some of these kids that are 9 and 10 years old, and they weigh what I weigh, and they can barely move. So disease is I look at, one of the questions you put to me is, what is disease? And what comes to me is Walmart, Costco, Kroger, Target, it's like, Amazon, it's like, the Amazon Prime, here's your box of disease, So that's how I look at disease now, is just, it's all manufactured from the foods. I had a farmer client of mine that came into town for the weekend, to visit, and he does canola oil, which is just about like, why don't you just go drink some canola oil and just go develop some type of, third eye that's coming out of your head because it's a tumor. So what is disease now? Because that's my definition of disease. It's like all the toxic foods and the human beings, and I look at them, and you get on a plane and you see the things they're eating and the food they're giving out on an airplane for an hour-long flight. They're giving you this disgusting processed stuff to put in your body, and I just look at people and I think to myself, you're going to die. So
I think of disease as being basically two factors. When you boil it all down, there's too much of something that's toxic, that's damaging to us. It could be trauma, physical trauma, or not enough of the nutrients, the good things, the good energies and substances that we need in order to heal that trauma and toxicity. So, we cut ourselves. We need nutrients to form the granulation tissue to heal in that cut, and the body heals itself if it has the right ingredients available. So, since we've destroyed our diet with food refining and genetically altering the foods, we've lost over 95% of the heirloom varieties of foods. And even if you don't look at genetically modified organisms that are making toxins, pesticides in them, just looking at the hybridization of foods, like with wheat and in the 1930s, the Dust Belt, they modified all the wheat to where it could withstand more drought, but it made it less nutritious and more allergenic. So our foods have lost over 90% of all of the phytochemicals that they once had. And on top of that, they're being refined and processed and stored and additives added to them. So the diet is a big factor, like with macular degeneration, the leading cause of supposedly irreversible blindness, which we help people reverse. It didn't exist before the 1850s. So with mechanization of food processing, refining of grains in the late 1800s, the oils, like all the vegetable oil. Vegetable oil is this beautifully clear, crystalline-looking substance, and you say, "Oh, that's pure. I should eat that." And actually, to some degree, that's been happening in commerce for a couple thousand years, where vegetable oils would be filtered, so they'd be clear, beautiful to the eye, like a crystal. But the truth is, the this material that's being filtered out is most essential for our health. The phytosterols, the plant fats that are a little bit less soluble, so they look stringy and cloudy in that oil. Like if you get a whole flax oil that's not filtered, it'll have that, it's not quite pure and clear looking. Yeah, well, that's what we need. The whole food. We need the whole oil. We need all the nutrients that are made in the whole plant. And so we've been depriving ourselves of the most critical nutrients that aren't even considered vitamins because there's no acute deficiency disease. It's a chronic deficiency disease. Blindness. Oh, you're going to go blind when you get old. So it's not a vitamin? No, it's not a vitamin because there's no acute deficiency disease. We need to upgrade our thinking with our, limited brain capacity. It's crucial that we understand that we need this broader range of natural substances that are in a whole food diet from heirloom plants grown organically and fresh, preferably fresh produce, not, shipped from South America or something, because it all, and then not cooked. Not always, a lot of foods maintain more of their nutrition when they're not cooked. You have enzymes and B vitamins that are heat labile that break down with heat. If you steam or cook vegetables in water, the water is going to extract most of the nutrients, and then we throw away the nutrients in the steam water, and just we're left with being the most overfed and undernourished people in the history of the world. So you see that Walmart type of body type that's getting plenty of calories. Calories are not the problem. The problem is the deficiency of the nutrients, and then exposure to 70,000 toxins that never existed in their genetic history. Our body has no way, it's not developed historically, genetically, to be able to handle whether those are prescription toxins or whether they're over-the-counter toxins or whether they're food additive toxins or whether they're airborne pollutant toxins. They're just everywhere. We're being exposed to them. So we have less of the nutrients we need to handle the detoxification of the increased toxic exposure. We've turned acute illness into chronic illness, with vaccination. You take, the normal childhood illnesses that are actually part of the development of the normal healthy immune system. We've now suppressed that at birth, however many injections, it's a crazy number. And then when I was a kid, if there was one child who had a chronic illness, asthma or something in the classroom, it's like, oh, what's wrong with that kid? Today, it's half of the class is on medication with chronic illness. The childhood cancer rates, the ADD and the drugs for that. Don't remove the cause. There's toxicity in the system, and the body's trying to fight with inflammation in the brain to push that out, and putting more toxins in to control the behavior. It's just managing the symptoms with drugs, but it's creating susceptibility for other health problems down the line. And that's great for the pharmaceutical industry. They do well when there's chronic illness because you have symptoms, you have complaints, and you will do anything to try to minimize those. But an illustration of the real trade-off there is even as something as simple as an aspirin for a headache. When they did a study on it, they found the people who took an aspirin for their headache now had more headaches in the future than the people who just had the headache and didn't take an aspirin. Yeah, the aspirin reduces the headache. It sure does. But does it make you healthier? No, it doesn't improve wellness. It reduces wellness. It increases susceptibility to that same thing that you're treating. It's suppressive. It's like you're pushing it back in. The body's trying to dissolve something. The immune system uses inflammation to dissolve and break down toxins. It uses elimination symptoms, whether it's a runny nose or diarrhea or increased urination or sweating. These are elimination symptoms. So when we look at the nature of a symptom, if it's elimination, well, your body's trying to get something out that doesn't belong inside. So we say better out than in. It doesn't mean you don't need to do something. You can lose too many electrolytes with diarrhea, and that can be a serious problem. So we do need to support the process, but with something like high blood pressure, instead of just reducing the blood pressure and saying, yeah, problem solved, you're not going to blow a gasket, but wait, what about the toxic blood? You've just made the problem worse. And again, the people in the community and the family and the patient himself says, I don't feel so good. I don't have enough energy now. Oh. So we need to support the kidneys to clean the blood better, or support the gut to make less toxic blood, because most of the toxins in the blood come from the gut. So microbiome, we're finding out in medical research that before there's chronic illness, one of the most sensitive indicators of susceptibility, of wellness, is the microbiome. When we start losing our microbiome, the friendly bacteria that outnumber our own cells because they're smaller than ours, when we start losing that biodiversity, we are heading for trouble. And we can see that way before the disease is diagnosable.